Thomas Frank sacked as Tottenham head coach. Tottenham are working through various possible contingency plans to replace the 52-year-old Dane as the club sit 14th in the Premier League, just 5 points above the relegation zone after 2 wins from 17 matches. Some will ask, why has it taken this long? Some will be happy that it's done, but maybe won't understand why it's actually taken this long to get to this stage. It's been a diabolical appointment. You know, people like myself was a big fan and a big advocate of Thomas Frank before he went in. The first 4 or 5 matches, Spurs looked really hard to beat. They looked well organized. They looked as though they could be dangerous this year. But the longer the season's gone on, the more that has unraveled, the more that has fallen apart. And it has been absolutely obvious, required, and the fact that it wasn't done has been shameless, that Thomas Frank hasn't been moved on sooner. And I spoke about this last night on the Full Fan Highlight Show, that if Thomas Frank stays until the end of the season, Tottenham Hotspur get relegated. I truly believe that. The players weren't playing for him. There was a disconnect. There was no urgency on the pitch. They were broken. They were absolutely broken on every single level. And that cannot be, and that shouldn't be, ignored. And by the way, they're not 14th in the league table. They're actually 16th. I'm only reading what Ornstein has said there, but yeah, you are right. They are lower than that. They are 16th in the league. 16th in the league after last night's defeat and Leeds United getting that draw. They've dropped down to 16th in the league. It was always going to happen, but you could see that disconnect. The players weren't playing for him. Yes, they've had their injury problems, but that wasn't the only issue. There were so many starting lineups that were unimaginative, far too defensive, and it just hasn't worked. And the one thing that was certainly not on his side was the supporters. The supporters did not want to know. The supporters were absolutely fuming with the setup. And I feel the whole scenario was just a complete and utter mess, a complete and utter disaster on every single level. Now, who comes next? Look, De Zerbi was just removed from his job just a few days ago, yesterday, not a few days ago, yesterday, which means there is the potential for a De Zerbi to come in. And I think someone like a De Zerbi is everything Tottenham need. The one thing I've learned in this last 12 months, yes, you need a manager that can get the best out of what you have, because it's very unlikely that Tottenham will ever have the best squad in the Premier League due to the size of the other competitors in our league. However, you need a manager that can get the best out of what he's got. But what I've learned, and I think where we should listen to Tottenham fans more, is that it needs to be more flamboyant. There needs to be more danger. There needs to be more risk-taking. They have to do this as a football club. They have to. If they don't, they end up in a situation where They end up in a situation where it doesn't suit their culture. It doesn't suit what they are as a football club. And when there is that disconnect between the manager and the players, the manager and the crowd, and you take away the heart of the team. I've listened to so many Tottenham games, watched so many Tottenham games this year, but listen to the crowd, and you can just feel they don't want it. That doesn't help inspire the players. The players don't feel inspired, and they're not enjoying the games, and they're not liking how they play, and they're losing. The whole thing is an avalanche of dissatisfaction and failure. The biggest issue here has been how it's taken this long for Thomas Frank to lose his job, just as they really and truly enter a relegation fight. And they're really in it now. Now they're making those changes, and they've just got to hope it can be turned around. Now, I think it will with the right manager. I think a little bit like Liverpool. I think if Liverpool were to sack Arne Slot today and bring in Alonso or bring in even a Gerrard as an interim, I think it would give them a shock to life they need. You'd see an improvement. They'd win enough games and they'd make the top 4. They'd make the Champions League. Spurs, with somebody like a De Zerbi, I think could easily finish inside the top 10 still from this point, give themselves, reinvigorate themselves, play a better brand of football, feel more like themselves. They can save it. And I don't think they'll get relegated now. I truly don't believe they'll get relegated now. That is something I don't believe will happen. That being said, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues still to resolve at a football club in the medium to longer term, but that really shouldn't be the concern right now. It is saving their season. In terms of the article from David Ornstein, I'm going to jump into it in a little bit more detail here and see what's being said. But it says here that Tottenham have sacked head coach Thomas Frank. Let me move this in front of me because it hurts my neck twisting it like that because I'm old. Tottenham Hotspur have sacked head coach Thomas Frank. Spurs are working through a few contingency plans as they look to replace Frank, who leaves the club 16th. So I think he might update his tweet soon. Yeah, he'll have to update his tweet, David Ornstein. 16th in the Premier League. Tottenham have won none of their last 8 league games and just 2 from their last 17. They are 5 points above the relegation zone. Frank's last league match in charge was Tuesday's 2-1 home defeat to Newcastle. Under the Danes, Spurs have finished 4th in the Champions League phase as they advance into the last 16. Frank joined Tottenham in June, signing a 3-year contract to replace Ange Postecoglou. And I think what's really, I think what's really interesting about all of this is that you sort of had this situation where, yes, they're 4th in the Champions League. Yes, the Champions League form has been good, but you can't rely on that. Genuinely, you can't rely on it. There is more at play here than relying on the form in the Champions League. Spurs have realized, and maybe it's taken them a little bit too long, but the Spurs hierarchy have realized, Jesus, if we don't actually do something here, if we don't actually get rid of him, we could lose our Premier League status. They know it is a genuine possibility. And that's, for me, the scary element. That, for me, is the scary element in all of this for Tottenham, is they really could get relegated. So they've had to do it. The Champions League form goes out the window. It doesn't matter because they're probably not going to win it, but you can't be relying on that. You cannot be relying on it. In any capacity, you can't be, because it will lead to absolute. It's going to lead to absolute disaster if he doesn't go. That's why they've had to move him on. Fans have been calling for it for weeks. The board have been late, but it's the right thing to do. Let's jump into some of your comments here that have come through. Who would want the Spurs job in the long term? Dead end role. Look, I'm going to give Spurs the same energy that I give Man United, but on a different level. They're not as big as we are. Tottenham are still we're a gigantic club. Spurs are a big football club. Managers will want to take this role on. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that nobody's going to want it. Nobody's going to be interested. Nobody's going to want to manage Tottenham. I don't believe that. I think that's a fabrication. I think that's an exaggeration. Can they go and get Alonso? Not in my opinion. Can they get Luis Enrique? No. Can they go and get Hansi Flick out of Barcelona? Absolutely not. Could they convince Simeone to leave Ati? No. But could they get De Zerbi? Yes. Could they get Glasner? Yes. Could they get Areola? Yes. De Zerbi? Yes. For me, and I'm not a big fan of going backwards in life, typically, but there are times when it's worthwhile. I still think what they should seriously consider is bringing Poch back. I think they should seriously consider bringing Poch back. Spurs as a club are hilarious. Take your payday, Frank, and get yourself off to a serious club. Quietly hoping Spurs end up in the Championship. Look, they won't get relegated now, in my opinion, unless they make an even bigger mistake with the replacement. I don't think Spurs will get relegated. I don't. But I can understand why people would want to see him go down. And I was talking about that last night. But I don't think that's going to happen now, if I'm being completely and utterly honest with you. I don't. Big up, Terry, and the community. Keep supporting the legend. One love. Thank you very much, bro. I appreciate that. And if you haven't done so yet, people, get the like button smashed. Make sure you're supporting the channel. Make sure you're supporting the stream. Make sure you're supporting what we do by liking, by subscribing, by sharing the content. So get everyone who's watching, hit the like button. It's really, really important to us that you do that. Let's get this out there. Let's get this show trending as best we can. That would be amazing. Please, Spurs, sign Amorim. It won't be Amorim. I can tell you now. I think it'll be either De Zerbi, Poch, or interim and then Glasner or Areola. It's going to be one of those four, in my personal opinion. Just a personal opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. Just what I think. I'd love to know. De Zerbi is waiting for the City job. That's also a great point. If De Zerbi hears he's on City shortlist, he isn't picking Tottenham now. You'd be imagine you. No disrespect to Tottenham. Imagine you go, right, you're on the shortlist at Tottenham and the shortlist of City. What do you want to do, De Zerbi? Oh, I'll just take the first job offer that comes up. Tottenham, go. I don't think you'll do it. You'd wait. These are not men that are paycheck to paycheck. These are rich people. They don't need to, like, financially, it's not like you and me got to pay the mortgage. You got the best job offer in the world you might get in 6 months, or you've got a really good job offer now. What do? You pick the one now, right? Because you need the money. You can't wait 6 months. Maybe the 6-month job falls through and then you're unemployed. We can't afford to do that as normal, everyday working class people, but these managers can. But that's a great point to be made there. Thomas Frank on his job being under threat. I spoke to the owners on Monday, so no. Listen, it's of course they're going to tell you no. Your ownership are always going to tell you your job's safe, right? Typically speaking, some people do get sacked, like in some people do sort of lose their jobs and then have to manage another game. We've seen that. But yeah, when he started saying that last night, I thought, no, there's no way your job is safe till the end of the season. Absolutely no chance in hell that your job was safe. I just don't believe it. I can't believe it. New manager bounce. But it's also one of the reasons why it's a good thing for them to do this now. They play Arsenal next in the Premier League. What a time to start your new manager bounce against your biggest rivals. For anyone that is just tuning in, a recap here on the Done Deal show this morning. Thomas Frank has been fired as the Tottenham manager, as revealed here by David Ornstein, sacked by Tottenham Hotspur. Various possibilities on the replacement being drawn up and made by Tottenham. Now, it says here they sit 14th. They don't. They do sit 16th. But as we know, just 5 points above the relegation zone. So anyone who's just tuning in now, anyone just tuning into the stream, Thomas Frank has lost his job as the Tottenham manager. And I don't think any of us are surprised, okay? It's been an absolute diabolical, catastrophic, shocking appointment. Whether people like hearing that or not, it simply has. And you only have to look, for instance, I'm just getting this stat right now because I want to reiterate this, okay? He has a 34, I repeat, a 34% win ratio at Tottenham. Ruben Amorim's win percentage, okay, was 38%, and that was catastrophic. But worse than that is when you look at the Premier League table. And why is it important to look at the Premier League table? Because that 34% is propped up by their European campaign. They have won just 7 of 26 games in the Premier League. In the Premier League, the win percentage is 26%. They're winning 1 game in 4 on average, but only won 2 of their last 17. So what that tells you, and these numbers are important, that win percentage in the league is decreasing. It isn't getting better. It is getting worse. There is no defending it. He simply had to go. It's absolutely catastrophic. It's catastrophic. Now, maybe if he stayed, he could have turned it around, but we'll never know. And listen, we saw Mikel Arteta have bad starts to their managerial careers as fledgling managers, as in league position and win percentages. It was never that bad. It was never. I doubt it. I mean, I don't actually. I should probably check before I say it was never that bad. What was his first full season, Arteta? Was it the 2021 season where they came 8th? What was his win percentage that season? So just want to put this into context, because people always do that weird thing of, well, Arteta got given time. He won 18. So again, Arteta's win percentage in his first full Premier League season was 47%. So this is what I want people to understand here, is this wasn't just a bad win rate. It was catastrophic.